back in the kitchen, cause when I get through, I need to eat. I mustn't fix me collard greens and cornbread and rice. Chicken breast, oxtails on the side. That's what I'm talking about. Deacon Underwood, get my Bentley ready, cause when I get through, I need a ride. Come on! Dr. West, count the money, come back and tell us what you raised. We had to find another deacon. I got some people there looking for some blessing. First, God gotta get the praise. Come on, y'all. See, there's an old saying, when the praises go up, you get the blessing coming down. I got some people in the church, God Almighty, look at them, they messing around. Come on. Woo. Hell no, to the no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no. Listen, I got people in the church smoking weed, drinking whiskey, they drinking a lot of gin. What you say? I got the preacher with the night prayer meeting, talking about can I get an amen? Come on! Early Sunday morning.
There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages. I'm Dave Valente. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Well, it's been a week, hasn't it? It's been like a month and a week.
It's been a week.
It's been a month of Sundays.
Jeez, man. I swear. I will say I wouldn't look at your 401ks for a while. The smoldering wreckage of any investments you may have. In fact, let's take a look at the Dow futures. Oh, that's a different one. There we go. Dow futures. At 1378, it's a little bit better than what they started out. The futures tonight they started out like 1,500 off. So a little bit better, but not great. Generally, the futures undersell a little bit. So, we're gonna have a case of the Mondays.
I think the Penguin futures are slowly climbing.
Let me point out
the fentanyl penguins.
That you never lose money until you sell at a loss. So. True. The worst thing that anybody could do would be to say, oh, I'm going to sell and get out right now. So I am going to look just real quick at my account. And, I'm down close to 10% in my main 401k.
Which, I mean, for those of us, even though, like you and me, Dan, are a little bit away from retirement, not, we're definitely on the back nine of the career.
Yeah.
Although, it's a little bit worrying if you're in retirement or just about to retire.
Right. Well, the interesting thing about it, too, is to put it in context. Okay, I'm down. Went down $10,000 on Friday, but I'm still up $10,000 for the year. Now I'm down for the year.
I checked before everything went down, and I was down like 3% for the year. So
yeah,
and according to the news reports I've seen, the market has lost $11 trillion since Inauguration Day.
Yeah, it's certainly something pretty crazy.
That's a vaporization of a lot of money.
Well, sure but it's not, right? Because when somebody sells stock, that money doesn't go away. It goes into somebody's pocket. It's not in the market. It's in somebody's pocket now.
Well, so, if the value went down and was never realized, it has evaporated. It's a matter of realizing the gain, and if it's not realized, it's gone.
Well, I mean, when you sell a stock, you get paid for it,
All right.
right? Value and currency are two different things, right? So people who are expressing the currency argument, yes,
Well,
currency. I mean, the currency has been devalued over a lot of things.
yeah, people are talking value when they look at their investments, their 401ks. They're not talking just currency. They're talking about, gosh, it was worth $100,000 a week ago, and now it's worth 85 grand. This isn't good.
Right. I'm saying that wealth, that value wasn't destroyed. It's not in the stock market anymore. Heidi's got it right. It's a redistribution of wealth.
Seize the means.
The part that's bad about this is it's clear to me that the Trump people are front running the market. And so, they're the ones who bought earlier and then sold during the upswing, crashed the market, and then will buy again.
Yep.
And
right
that's
before Trump reverses all the tariffs.
It's exactly what they did when they floated the Trump Bitcoin. Trump and his cohorts made a great deal of money on that, got out while it was high, and now anybody else that was left, that's their followers, their cultists, were left.
Well, now that coin is simply a tool to use to get out of things like investigations, and guys are dumping money into the Trump coin, and all of a sudden their SEC investigation goes away, or all of a sudden the Justice Department isn't.
Right, it's an easy
looking
way
into their shit
to give money to the president without actually giving money to the president.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it goes to the point as to why campaign finance laws are so incredibly stupid. But we have that problem with, hello everybody, to all the listeners.
Yes.
It's funny because I was just on a conversation about this earlier. The FEC goes to great lengths to prevent people from exceeding their maximum donations to a candidate, to a committee, to a party. And, the LNC has a thing like this going on right now where they want to sell a building for profit. And I just talked very briefly about this, not making too much about political parties, but political parties don't have revenue. They only get donations. So when the LNC sells a t-shirt, it's not actually selling a t-shirt. It's taking a donation and giving you a t-shirt. Because otherwise, I could get around the maximum. In fact, Dave and I tried to do this. The maximum donation that Dave was allowed to give to the party was $41,000. But when I was in charge, he wanted to give $250,000. So what I did was I made a $1,000 t-shirt and I sold it on the store, and he bought 250 of them.
Yeah, that's how I roll.
Right. The point is that campaign finance prohibits stuff like that. Okay, and what Trump is doing right now with the coin is trying to find another way to get around campaign finance law.
But I don't think this is campaign finance at all. I think this is naked bribery.
It's both. I mean, remember, he made people donate to his fund as well. But, they're handicapped in that
mentally,
even with bundling, right? The maximum donation that a person can make to a campaign is, I think, $500,000. It used to be, that's my guess.
I mean, unless one of the political action committees, a dark super.
Right. I'm not talking about the PACs. I'm talking about directly to the campaign, because you can donate X amount of $2,800 to the campaign. You can donate $10,000 to a state party, and then you can donate however much.
Oh,
there. Heidi, I heard that too.
Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
2 in the thoughts, 1 in the prayers.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but that's, I forgot what my point was going to be, but yes, it's it is naked. The Trump coin as a naked way to bribe the president, pay to play to get what you want. Now, let's talk a little bit about the idea that as libertarians, we don't really support campaign finance law, right? We might not think that bribery is appropriate, but we probably wouldn't make many laws against it. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I mean, I'm coming around on it. Watching Elon Musk stroke out. I mean, yeah, we can make the point that it didn't work in Wisconsin, but stroking out $1 million checks during the presidential election was.
Well, I mean that's an interesting thing because there's two different ways about that. Okay, it is considered, what Musk did in Wisconsin, I think absolutely has to be prosecuted because their law says specifically you cannot offer anybody money to induce them to vote, not even to vote one way or the other. You can't offer them money. However, Musk was very careful. And that what he did, and then he said, I'm having a party and it's only for people who voted so far.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not inducing you to vote. I'm just having a party that's for people who have voted already.
Yep.
So, I mean, they danced that line, and he actually took that statement down as well after people are like, hey, that is actually in violation of the law. And let's talk about the fact that they got spanked there, right? 55-45.
Well, I mean, it reflects kind of the mood of the country at this point in that even in Florida, where the Republicans held on to those 2 congressional seats, they ended up hemorrhaging about 12%.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, a statewide election, they are about 10% off of what, or about 12% off of what Trump got, or the Republicans in that race. So you're seeing I wouldn't say that the Republicans are abandoning him yet. We'll see how the tariffs impact it. But I will say that the independents probably are the ones who voted for Donald Trump are like, ooh, I regret that vote. And I think it's going to be a bloodbath. And if things maintain at this level, and I know that we're a lifetime away from 2026, if economic conditions continue in this way and he continues to hold on to these tariffs, it's going to, I mean, the Republicans are going to be an endangered species. And even here in West Virginia, I think.
It could easily get to the point less than 1 year from now when a lot of the Republicans are campaigning for re-election that Trump and his groups just start throwing them under the bus, even though they'll be trying to.
I think you're going to see a few Republicans either one announce that they're not going to run for re-election because they just see the headwind, especially in the closer districts. They see the headwinds against them, or two, they're going to switch parties.
Right.
And again, it's still a very close, even though they won the 2 congressional districts in Florida. Now I think they've got a 5-seat majority in the House, which is about what they had last Congress.
Right. But it's still
close. You just need a few to switch parties, and the power of that chamber changes hands.
Absolutely. We saw that on the vote from home bill that some Republicans pushed through.
Yeah.
Right. Most of I can't remember the woman's name. Anna
Paulina Luna, a Florida congresswoman, and then there's the congresswoman from Colorado who also
essentially they wanted to be able to, while they had young children, recently born children, to be able to vote in absentia remotely.
Yeah. Or as proxy. I think it was proxy votes.
Was it proxy, which allows, or was it remote?
I think it was proxy voting, which I think, we did proxy voting during the pandemic. In fact, one of the things that they pointed out several times was that Mike Johnson used proxy voting, I believe, 22 times during the pandemic.
Yeah.
There's no reason to force someone to come into and sit in the chamber to make a vote.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but that being said, Mike Johnson was against it. Trump was against it. The Republicans were against it. However, enough Republicans voted with the Democrats that they were able to, and it was pretty impressive because they don't have enough because they don't control the Speaker's House. They can't actually bring legislation to the floor. But in this case, I can't remember what the heck the thing's called.
It's a discharge.
A
They're able to
discharge.
discharge it. Yeah.
Right. They were able to discharge it. So, I mean, that's a pretty big victory. A sign of dissent.
They're trying to change it. I mean, it's kind of a victory in that they got it through, but it only takes a simple majority to discharge something. They're
Right.
trying to change it to get it to a 60% threshold.
Right.
But they got it through and they got it passed. They changed the rules. That's good. Yeah, it's like the first non-asshole-ish thing that has come out of the government this last 2 months.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Well, I've long said anytime they happen to do something right, it's simply because they accidentally fell face first into it.
Right.
Stumbled into it.
Right. I mean, I like to use the phrase, a broken clock is right twice a day. But unfortunately, millennials don't understand that because they haven't seen a clock with a face.
That's right.
They don't understand digital clocks.
Yeah, broken clock is off.
Yeah, broken clock is off.
No, I mean, yeah, so let's get back to the economy and what's happened this week. Trump throws on these tariffs globally. And he's been threatening this for the since, the campaign, that he wants to tariff these countries. He's flirted with tariffs on Canada and Mexico. He's put them on, then taken them off.
Yep.
Then he has this weird press conference out in the Rose Garden where he starts listing off countries. First off, violating the one China policy by listing Taiwan separately and calling them by name. And then and then putting tariffs on places like Heard at McDonald Island and a few places that aren't even inhabited.
Only
like
penguins.
Lesotho getting a 50% tariff. Lesotho, I don't think really sends us anything. When we did the Lesotho country feature, most of their stuff goes to the SADC countries. So South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia.
Right.
They're not sending stuff to the United States.
How much did he tariff Russia?
0.
Oh, how about that? Russia, 0.
I mean,
Comrade Putin was pleased.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, there were no tariffs announced on Canada or Mexico either because they'd been announced in a separate tariff meeting. But the problem, I mean, there's a million stupid things about this. Probably the stupidest is not realizing that China, Japan, India, Russia, Germany are all loving this, right? The major industrial powers are like, wow, we can actually make up the capacity that America is not going to do anymore. So if suddenly through our actions, right, by imposing tariffs, American goods are now more expensive. And there are some places where, I wrote a little piece about this. The Japanese have a very significant tariff on importing rice. And the reason why is because growing rice farmers are culturally very important to the Japanese. Now, Americans, we have an incredibly expensive labor system here, but we're really good farmers. And we actually can grow rice cheaper than the Chinese, cheaper than the Japanese, cheaper than anybody. And so we could actually out-export everybody in terms of rice. And we could sell rice to the Japanese much cheaper than Japanese farmers. And so in order to protect their farmers, the Japanese put a significant tax on American rice. You actually still can get some American rice. Uncle Benson. I'm just kidding. I made that up.
Right.
But there are luxury brands of American rice. But that's sort of a protectionist tariff. Lots of places do that. In fact, the United States has done that for some industries that we consider militarily sensitive.
Sure. And Tony DeRazio posted today. He says, there's a meme that's been going around about Just a friendly reminder, these are the tariffs Canada applied to agricultural products before. Oops, I screwed that up. Before we entered into trade wars, chicken 263%, turkey 179%, butter 175%, dairy spreads 165%, certain fish products 160%, milk 155%, cheese 147%, beef 77%, pork 77%, eggs 66%, flour 40%, wheat 38%, orange juice 25%, as well as peanut butter 25%. Now, we put a 25% tariff on Canadian goods. Now you're like, oh well, we're still taking it from the Canadians. What is not told in that meme, and of course, memes are not political treatises, and you should always verify some information before you post it. But what that is when products are brought into Canada, what they're doing is preventing the flooding of the market. So if you bring in well above a certain quota of turkey into the market, everything above that quota is then slapped with 179%. Everything below that is brought in with I don't even think they have a because of NAFTA or whatever they call it now. There wasn't a duty on that stuff coming into the country.
It's interesting though, like you say orange juice. I don't believe that Canada has an orange industry that they're.
It's Sunny D, man. It's Sunny D. It's orange. It's orange smack, essentially.
Yeah. I do think that it's fair to say that there are some unfair tariffs against the United States. Things that if it were truly an open market and a free market, we would be crushing the world in everything, right?
Sure.
I mean, we can make everything cheaper. However, we're actually currently not the largest producer of things because China. But part of that is also because our goods are much more expensive than everybody else's, even without China, even without tariffs. In this scenario where we are looking to be a huge exporter, to a certain extent, our options are limited. We can't say we're going to have retaliatory tariffs against everybody else in the world and expect that our goods are going to be competitive, because we're not competing with their local industries. We're competing with China and Japan and India and Germany and Russia, all the other industrialized nations.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a tariff and a reciprocal tariff, their goods are now cheaper than American goods. And so where America has owned a lot of spaces in the world, especially in tech, especially in financial services, we are going to give up those markets and let other countries run those and own those markets now.
Yep.
I mean, the previous prediction was that China's economy will outstrip the United States, like 20, 25 years. I will say probably by the end of the decade, if these tariffs remain in place for the next few years or couple years, by the end of the decade, the Chinese will be the dominant economy in the world. And yes, the predictions are a dime a dozen, but you also have to couch in whether China's government is going to be able to withstand that, some of their shocks, some of their weaknesses, their real estate market. The shrinking of global trade will definitely impact some countries, and China definitely will see some impacts. But yeah, we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
Oh, we are.
And for stupid reasons, like Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada are about fentanyl, and such a minimal load of fentanyl comes into the United States from Canada each year, that it doesn't, like, there's no reason to slap a tariff on the border there.
And there's this idea of sort of, well, we're doing it to be equitable, right? There was this stupid formula where they said, okay, well, here are your imports, here are your exports, and here's our trade disparity, and we're going to divide them together, and then we're going to throw in some Greek numbers, Greek symbols, and then we're going to say, okay, that's what it is. That formula doesn't take into the fact something that any actual business person knows. Sometimes, you have to be content with a 5% profit instead of a 25% profit because the volume is worth it.
Yes.
The juice is worth the squeeze. And so in many cases where the United States is absolutely being tariffed, and first of all, let's talk about why those tariffs exist, right? Tariffs really only exist not so much to make money, but to protect local industry, to make foreign goods more expensive.
I mean, we had, I studied the Asian tigers when I was in college, and we talked about
Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, and I don't remember the other one.
Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, and Philippines. And really, it's about the use of tariffs to protect those native industries, and Japan is also kind of lumped in there as well. And that they used import substitute industrialization to protect those industries as they were growing after World War II, and were able to grow their local industries and make them profitable. The thing that they found out on the back end is that once you have those advantages of ISI, that they weren't the business leaders were not very keen on giving those advantages up. So it led to, especially in Japan, a decade of almost 2 decades of lost growth because they were so beholden to the ISI that the economy just didn't grow.
Should you explain what you mean by the ISI?
Import substitute industrialization. It's essentially a quota system that protects Japanese industries or your local industries versus foreign industries to prevent a flooding of the market, prevent the foreign based. So like car manufacturing is a big thing.
Well, and realistically speaking, the United States can flood any market with anything. And if countries didn't enact some form of tariffs, because we're just so good at production, we would eliminate all sorts of markets.
I mean, we could. We've given up on a lot of things. I mean, Joe, go ahead, and I know you're.
I was going to say, it makes no sense to me. So, be it Japan, be it anyone, if they're going to tariff anything to protect certain of any country's domestic markets, that gets nullified the moment you have a reciprocal tariff. And now you've got a trade war going on. You have job losses that can be happening because of it. The economy is going to continue to tank. It's never ending. And the tariffs end up being, if they're trying to protect a local domestic industry of any type, I'm sorry, that's just a type of backdoor price control. And we all know that price controls never work. And they're just trying to do it by imposing these tariffs to preserve those markets. We all know it never works. Now, we could argue this till we're blue in the face. Yeah, maybe there's ways that it looks like it works very small, very locally to any country in the short run. But in the long run, it ends up just blowing up in their face. They just, what would be creative would be, hey, let's just eliminate them all and let the free market reign. And if that happens, yeah, you're going to have some countries and some industries and some markets that prevail better over others. Well, good. But the tariffs are only causing damage, and it's been proven in the past. We know that. And it's going to happen this time. It's already happening.
Yeah, and this is and I'll say kudos to everybody in the comments. You guys are entertaining me with the duck comments. And Craig, I caught yours. Are you a caveman? Because he likes the roasted duck with the mango salsa. Anyway, This is a concept that we on the liberal side of things get, in that wars don't create anything. This is a trade war. Wars do not create anything. It's destroying economies. It's shrinking economies. We've seen our stock market shrink. We're going to see our ability to provide goods and services shrink and become more expensive. People are not going to have as much disposable income to be able to buy the goods and services that they want to. People are going to lose their job because their companies are not able to produce the things that they once produced. The great thing about the free trade system, and people can complain about free trade and exploitation and all that stuff. When you watch things like iPencil, it tells you how interconnected this global economy is right now. And, we can't just, we can't just turn this stuff off and expect things to run smoothly. And we're going to, I've seen people like, well, we're just gonna have to deal with a little bit of pain. It's not gonna be a little bit of pain.
That's right.
We're not just combining it with, or we're not just doing a trade war. That's not the only thing that's going on. We're combining it with a bunch of other weirdly done austerity measures, which, yes, austerity would work if you had a plan, but this is kind of like a point and shoot austerity program that we're going through. That people are being hit from both sides. They're being hit from the working side, in that, whatever happens with the trade and whatever happens with the economy is going to directly impact their ability to make money. They're being hit from their retirement side because their 401ks are going in the shitter, and then they're being hit from the social safety net side, and that we don't know what that's going to look like in 3 months. So I saw a story where the guy was talking about, it's not that unlike other recessions and other possible depressions, is not like there's not enough work out there. Everybody's working. That's the problem. We're working and we're just not making enough to keep up. And it's only going to get worse with the inflation that's going to come off of this.
Well, and part of that issue is that unless production is as cheap as possible, everything is more expensive than it needs to be. And so, you talked about iPencil. Our friend Julie Borowski wrote a book called Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza. And the essence of it is, right, even something as simple as a cheese pizza, there's nobody who knows how to do everything. One person provides the flour, one person provides the tomato sauce, another person makes the oven, another person provides the fuel that heats the pizza. Nobody can do it all.
Somebody provides the milk that makes the cheese, and somebody makes the cheese that makes the cheese for the pizza. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
And if there's anything that I'm willing to really go to war for, it's pizza. And so, this idea that my pizza is going to be threatened because now I can't get good cheese from Italy, or tomatoes from California, or flour from Canada, or whatever. Those things.
I mean, remember, we're also sending hundreds of thousands of people over the border.
Right.
So getting the products from the ground to your grocery store, even if they're produced locally, that's not happening.
Yeah. And that's, sort of, that part of it is incomprehensible to me. There's a picture when Trump was announcing the tariffs that I think probably a lot of our people saw, of everybody with half a brain sitting there cheering and smiling and clapping, and Marco Rubio with this ashen look on his face as he sort of realizes.
Did you see somebody the difference between a cuck and a simp?
No.
Basically, a simp is happy about what daddy's doing.
Yeah.
And the cuck is dour, and they were comparing JD Vance to Marco Rubio.
I mean, it's a, and I don't want to kink shame anybody.
No, I know. Yeah,
That's your thing.
you get down with
But
how you get down.
yeah, but there is there's something to it that we are dealing clearly with people who do not understand the issues. And I don't want to say that they're not smart because,
I would.
I mean, JD Vance
We all
came
know.
out of a top flight law school. He wrote a best-selling book. He's not an idiot.
JD Vance is an opportunist.
That we all
Yeah.
know plenty of smart people out there, people that are probably even more intelligent than we are, and yet they're clueless. There's two different things.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
They have book smarts, but not a lick of common sense.
Right. And they are beholden to the big idiot, right? And that guy is an idiot. There was a great letter written by the person who made The Apprentice, the television show, where he sort of apologized to the United States. And he said, we made The Apprentice show, and what we needed to do for The Apprentice to work as a format was to make it seem like Donald Trump was a genius businessman. And so we wrote the show so that he would always have these great, really smart lines to say. And he'd be put in these scenarios, but we would tell him how to solve them before he showed up in that scenario. We made him appear this smart. What we didn't realize was that we weren't just fooling the television audience, we were fooling him as well. And he started to believe that he actually was.
Well, I think he's always believed he's the smartest, most accomplished business person in the room. I mean, he willingly went on TV after bankrupting a casino, after bankrupting a university, after bankrupting a state company.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I think he's kind of in that fake it till you make it type mindset that
he ain't making it.
Right.
Well, he has made it. I mean, he's made it twice to the highest office in the land, and this time he is making it. I mean, making moves that I am concerned that he's not going to try and he's not going to be wanting to leave until he's kind of dragged out of there.
Yeah. It's interesting because Trump is also involved in the actual worst contract in sports. And I know a lot of people would like to say, oh, Bobby Bonilla's contract is the worst contract in sports. But Steve Young's contract, Steve Young is still getting paid by a league that doesn't exist anymore.
Is he still getting paid by the USFL?
He is sort of.
Original.
Now, to be fair, what happened was he insured his contract because he was smart. And he's like, I don't know if the USFL is going to make it. And so I'm going to take out insurance on my contract. And so
That's smart.
It's very smart. Unlike the owners of the USFL, and specifically the owner of the New Jersey Generals, Donald J. Trump.
Yes.
So there's a million things going wrong. The tariff stuff is sad because the people who are advocating, saying the tariffs are going to work, are so removed from reality. And this is a situation that we confront over and over again now, where there are people who are just so removed from reality. How do we possibly reconcile with them? How do we, one of the things that we talked about in 2016, a campaign slogan that never got used, was Republicans and Democrats have fractured the country. How do we join the country together? We Johnson weld it together. And I'm like, that would have been a really good slogan. I would have loved to have run on that. Ended up not using it.
Yeah.
But
well,
go ahead.
Well, I would say that and I hear a lot of people on both sides say that I'm never going to accept it. And I get to an extent, especially when people hold abhorrent views, racism, anti-LGBTQ views, and things like that. I'm not going to break bread with them. But if somebody who voted for Donald Trump on economic lines and now they have come to regret it, the only way we get past this and we start turning things around is, especially like on the independent side, the non-Republican voters, the time for holding people to account for their vote in 2024 is probably not now. Let's get past this. Let's get him out of office, and then we can have like a truth and reconciliation type thing if we want to do it that way.
Well, that's what it's going to take to get the markets to rebound and to get this thing mended. He's going to have to be gone, and we're just going to have to ride it out till he is, or at least if it's after the midterms next year, effectively neutered. That helps. But until we get to those points, we're just going to have to endure the damage. It's a shame.
It's very interesting, too, because we, as a country, rise to every test. The one constant throughout American history is the ingenuity of Americans in overcoming whatever is thrown at us. Mm-hmm. Great Depression, Dust Bowl, World War, Civil War, Teapot Dome, whatever you want to point to, Watergate, all these huge scandals that have come before. America and Americans have risen above them together. I don't know if that togetherness is there.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll comment on that, Dan. All those things you listed, typically all of those were things that were beyond our control, brought upon us, adversities that were brought upon us by external forces, be they other governments or natural forces. This one is a damage coming from within. It is a rotting that is happening quickly from within. It's a little different adversity than we have, and it's what's tearing us apart.
I would say that the closest we've got to what we're seeing right now is the Civil War.
Yes.
Like the divisiveness, and largely along the lines of almost geographical lines. Although I will say, the people that said, let's just have a national divorce. How do you do that? It's really a rural versus urban type deal. But
I think that there's some too. Like you can go back and you look at the Democratic Convention in '68 in Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. Police cracking heads of long hairs on the Vietnam War. Things were pretty divisive then. It's not the same as it is now, but I think that there were a lot of people very divided on two issues. A lot of people who felt like America, love it or leave it, and we have to fight communism everywhere. And a lot of people are like, we shouldn't be sending American men and women to die in Southeast Asia.
Anti-communism.
Where we are now, though, I don't know how we get people to come back. And you talked about, David, about you're not going to break bread with people who have who say unforgivable things. And I agree with you. Racists, anti-Semites, anti-LGBT people, all of those things. But we're in a space that it's very difficult to gauge the other aspects of it, right? I mean, we are all, and I don't want to say politically liberal, but we're classically liberal. Just in general, we're open to the ideas of a lot of things. There is a legitimate argument about what is being taught in schools, right? There are people who say, look, we are the majority, we are the political majority, and we object to this curriculum. What does that mean? It means that we're in trouble, because while government runs the thing, it's at the whim of democracy. And that's the problem. Democracy doesn't scale to American style, to American sizes. Okay, you can't have schools You know, one of the things that's coming out of this is the end of the National Department of Education. Something that libertarians have talked about for a long time and cheered on, because we know that what people think is right for education in Massachusetts isn't going to be right in West Virginia or Mississippi. You know, I hear a lot, like people who come from southern rural states, and they're like, look, you teach whatever you want. We do not believe in long division. That is the devil's work.
It is the devil's work. Actually, you know, division's fine. I was
Right.
fine with math until they started throwing letters in there. I'm a strict segregationist when it comes to math.
Exactly.
Letters and numbers need to be separated.
Exactly.
That's going to be taken out of context one day. We're like, Dave Valente, strict segregationist.
Exactly. That's gonna be the clip from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I do like the idea that we should go back and make very unfair clips of ourselves and send them out there.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows I've got millions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But that I think about, and so I'm going to get a little deeper on the spiritual side of it here, and I don't know where you guys are. We never really had a conversation about spirituality, or I guess we did a little bit, but so I was raised Jewish, but B'nai Israel, where I grew up, they wouldn't let you have your bar mitzvah until you went through a comparative religion class. And essentially, they're like, you know, there are a lot of religions out here. We don't want you unless you want to be here. And one of the things we learned was that there, you know, is an incredible wealth of compassion and love for humanity in the Christian scriptures. They are books that are written, you know, if you go back and you look at the stuff that Jesus said, and one of the most important things is the concept of turning the other cheek. Turning the other cheek also isn't just about turning the other cheek so that you can be slapped again on the other cheek, but it's so that everybody else can see your commitment to not just forgiveness, but to forgive and risk again.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something that we are going to need as a country. We are going to have to find a way to forgive those who trespass against us.
That's well said. Well said, Dan.
I wish I could say I was the first one to say, forgive us who trespass against us. But yes.
You're a good company, Dan. You're really good company. You know, you're absolutely right, though. There's such polarization. I know some people, I've talked to many who have said, I can't even hang out with someone who's so crazy about Trump, and they won't take the blinders off. They won't listen. And you're right. And we see it at work. We see it with our friends. We see it with our own families. And we're going to have to do exactly what you're talking about. We're going to have to get to a point where, let's face it, when somebody realizes, hey, I screwed up, man, I was wrong. What a mess this turned out to be. We've got to be the reconcilers. We've got to be the ones willing to sit down, listen, and say, hey, welcome back. Welcome back. And we're all in this together. I think that's part of turning that other cheek, Dan.
Well, I think the thing that will bring people together is economic issues, in that when everybody starts getting poorer, the people that voted for this are gonna start regretting it. And again, if you voted for Trump on economic issues alone and bought what he was selling when it came to economic issues, you're not the first person to fall for a politician.
Right.
Acknowledge your mistake and move on, and you know, join us and push back against this stuff, because the longer it goes on, the worse off it's going to be, and it's going to be the worse off that it's going to be. Like, Elon Musk loses 90% of his wealth. He's still a fucking rich man.
Oh yeah,
he's still a very rich man.
Yeah.
If I lose 90% of my wealth, I'm homeless.
Yeah, exactly. Big difference.
And most people are homeless. Like that's the thing. So we got to look out for one another. We got to speak up when we see stupid things that are going to hurt everybody, and be welcoming to people who made a mistake in the past about supporting a guy who promised them the moon when it came to the economy. I mean, we saw all the stuff that he put out there, and maybe these people were just watching nothing but Fox News and Newsmax, and got all their information from Mima, who got it from a Russian bot, and that's how they formed their political opinion. But
Elizabeth raises a good point.
She does,
where she talks about how the need for mutual aid and volunteerism and show our neighbors that we care. Yes. That's how we actually fix this.
Absolutely.
Okay, we can't fix it by continuing to say, and I really did appreciate everybody who was out on Saturday. I saw a lot of my friends post pictures. The idea that visibility matters, that's 100% true. Visibility matters significantly. And very few times did I see criticism of, I mean, I saw a little, but I didn't see many criticisms of the people who voted for Trump. I saw a lot of criticism of Trump and the stuff
Trump
that he's done. Right, and Trump and Elon. And, you talk about it, David, when you say, the people who voted for Trump for economic reasons. Or, I'll go further. There are people who voted for Trump because, abortion. Okay, I disagree with them, but that's their issue and that's where they want to vote. We have to find a way to say to these people, it's okay. There's another, apparently this is going to be a very religious thing. The parable of the prodigal son, right?
I'm going to pass around the donation plate. Hold on a second.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny you say that because people who want to join our Patreon and see naked pictures of our president. No, I'm just kidding. We were talking about that in the thing earlier, but that part of it, Janice talks about it. The hands-off protest.
Yeah,
that's a different idea than a hands-on. Say that we want to change things. It's saying, leave us alone. And the problem when we make this argument about the leave us alone is that Republicans are going to come back with a whataboutism. They're going to say, hey, when we wanted to be left alone, you touched us where we didn't want to be touched. You touched us in our healthcare, right? You touched us in whatever else you want to talk about. There's a million examples of this thing. And it's tit for tat, and it goes all the way back.
It is. And when they do that, it's something. I had a conversation with someone yesterday. Well, it was my older brother. And he's very much in Trump's camp to this day. And we had a conversation, and he was, we got talking about a few things, and I pointed out a few things that Trump was doing wrong. And just what you said, Dan, very quickly, he said, well, look at what the Democrats did the last 4 years. And I was like, whoa. When you pull that stunt, when you pull that argument, it's almost sounding like you are rationalizing justification for what the hell is happening right now. And we've got to be able to point that out to people in a nice way. Because like you said, when they finally decide or admit they made a mistake, and we're welcoming them back into the fold, so to speak, you got to remember at that point, they're now better. They're smarter. They're not going to make the same mistakes so easily, at least theoretically. Again, they're going to be sensitive to that. And all of a sudden, we're dealing with a better electorate, theoretically.
Hopefully. I mean, and to your point, Dan, I am very much in favor of both tits and tats. So,
yeah, I mean, I do think about George Carlin a lot in that space, right? He talks about the 7 words that you can't say on TV or radio.
Yes.
And one of the words was tits.
It doesn't even belong on the list, as he said.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Anymore? I mean,
people. I don't know if that's on the list anymore. But as Carlin pointed out, tits. It sounds like a snack. I mean, maybe it is.
Exactly what he said, dude. The Bisco tits.
Exactly. We live in this world, and this is the thing about it, that when you find a way to get together with people and share joy, that is the bonding experience. That is the thing that makes it worthwhile. Yes. And we and now I'm talking to you guys, right? You guys are watching the show. Can't tell anybody else, but we are the actual enlightened people. We're going to have to be the ones that bring this enlightenment to the rest of the world. And so that means with the crazy idiots out there, don't say crazy idiots out loud, with the AZ Cray idiots way, we have to be the one who finds a way to share joy with them, because that's hard to resist. If you can share your joy with somebody else, they can't be your enemy anymore.
That's right. That's right.
Here endeth the lesson.
No, you're nailing it. You're nailing it. And you know, it's going to be within each of us to be that compassionate, empathetic individual.
I'm just grateful that when we were talking about Christianity and you said you're nailing it, David didn't say what he was thinking about. Sorry.
On the other hand, asshole.
Exactly. What else crazy was in the news?
Well, I mean, we did briefly touch on the hands-off protests. So 1,400 cities across the United States, big rallies in D.C., New York, but Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Of course, now that electorate is kind of agitated because of the whole Elon Musk Wisconsin Supreme Court race that just happened. But you know, massive rallies all over the country and I think the important thing of rallies, and you know, you take the total number and say, well, it wasn't a grand number of the electorate that was out there. And that's true. These are people who are motivated to get out there. But the idea is that people who are at home see other people out there rallying and holding up that idea that, you know, we need to get the idiots' hands off the government at this point because they're steering it into a ditch. And so there is a powerful message in what happened with the hands-off protests. I mean, Charlestown, not Charleston, the capital of the state, Charlestown, where the casino is at, West Virginia, 1,000 people in a town that has 7,600 people.
Yeah,
that's a significant number. Albuquerque had a good number there. Tom Mann was reporting numbers there. He did have a concerning thing where he said it felt like it was an old, you know, kind of Vietnam era protest. He didn't see many people under the age of 30 there.
Yeah, I think that depends on where you are, though, and part of that is just New Mexico, right? I mean,
sure. I mean, there's a good young population in New Mexico, but you know,
just in a very small circle, though. I mean,
you mentioned earlier about how important it was to be visible, I think is what you
said.
Right. You know, I think one of the important things is, again, this was anti-Trump. And, you know, during his campaign, they would laughingly point out, oh, look at the camera angle on this Biden rally. There's maybe all of 40 people there. And you look at these rallies nationwide, thousands of people turning out, city after city. There was I know there was something going on not far from here in Harrisburg. It's just, good to see. Oh, there was one here in State College. I see the NFL hockey final, and I know that's near and dear to Dave's heart. I'd like to point out that my Pittsburgh Pirates beat the Yankees today.
That's nice.
Finally.
Has baseball season actually? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. And it's worth mentioning that Ovechkin hit 895 today.
Yeah, 895 for Ovechkin. I mean, there's a controversial thing when it comes to Ovechkin, and that
he is great friends with Putin.
He is great friends with Putin. He has never spoken out against the war, and I don't generally take too much to Russian athletes, especially guys like Ovechkin who still have family in Russia. And taking that kind of stance would put them in danger.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a little bit of a controversy of it, and I think that's probably why, you know, Ovechkin's a popular player in that he has such a gregarious.
Yeah, you know, I mean, he's got a joie de vivre that is, you know, evident, and he really has improved his personal presence since he came into the league. You know, he came in the league. Like I was watching his interview because he played the Blackhawks to when he tied the record.
Yeah.
And we watched his interview afterwards, and his English is excellent now. It was not excellent when he came over.
Oh, I remember
19 years ago.
Yeah, I remember watching when he was drafted, the year he was drafted. He really struggled with English, doing the interviews with the NHL teams. I mean, everybody knew he was going to go to the Capitals with the first overall pick, but the top 3 teams actually interviewed him and everything, and he struggled and had to have translators. But he is, I mean, he does struggle with some words, but I mean, yeah, his English is amazing, and he's. What was the quote when they won the Stanley Cup? We're not going to be fucking suck this year. I mean, for messing up English, I thought it was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I wonder what Ovechkin's relationship is with some of the famous NHL defectors like McGillney or Fedorov or Bure, because those guys, they left.
Yeah.
Well,
one person who has spoken out against Ovechkin the most is former Buffalo Sabres all-time great goaltender Dominic Hasek.
Yeah.
He has posted several times during this chase about how Ovechkin has not acknowledged the atrocities in Ukraine and has not spoken out against Putin. In fact, supports Putin, has played in some of those farcical all-star games where Putin scores 8 goals against NHL level competition. I mean,
and then falls by skating over a rug.
Skating over a rug, he falls down.
I mean,
poor rug maker, everybody's been sniped.
I have sympathy for that. The director of server-side engineering for Real Report was Alexei Navalny's senior tech guy. I mean, he had to flee Russia, right?
Yeah.
It was dangerous shit. And it's still relative. I mean, he talks about it. He's like, I can't go back to Russia.
Well, I mean, who's to say that Putin doesn't hunt them down? I mean, he's been known to go after defectors.
Absolutely true. I mean, it's
Novichok and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And several people in England. So
collateral damage.
Yeah, it's a thing, and that's the thing about it. On the other hand, do we expect Ovechkin to take a stronger position than the president of the United States?
This is true.
It's a tough thing, and
it's interesting also to see the juxtaposition with Wayne Gretzky being in part of this chase, because Wayne Gretzky has also taken a lot of heat in his native Canada because he's a big Trumper, and Trump's calling for the annexation of Canada. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow when you're the guy that Wayne Gretzky still. I mean, the amazing thing is Wayne Gretzky still has more assists than any other NHL player in history has points
combined.
So if you don't know hockey, you get a goal for when you put the puck in the net. The 2 players that touch the puck before you get assists. If two of your own teammates touch it before you do. Yeah, so he has more assists than any other player has points. The closest is Jaromir Jagr, who got to 1921, and I think Gretzky has 1985 assists.
Right. Right. Jagr, you're talking about a combination of goals and assists.
Yeah.
And to put it in context, Ovechkin's assists like 300 and something, right?
Yeah.
It's
now different eras. I mean, if you watch goaltenders back in the 80s, when Gretzky got a majority of his points, I think I could put up 20 at least. And I can't even skate.
20 a season?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different era. But, it leads us into another thing where we talk about, celebrities, athletes, and politics. And here we are in this era, and the real celebrities right now are not the celebrities anymore, right? It's the heads of the big tech companies. And you see where they are with Trump, right? And supposedly, Kara Swisher, one of my favorite reporters, wrote that this week, the big, what do they call it? FANG, Facebook, Apple, I don't remember what the N stands
NVIDIA
for, and Google, whatever it is, are going down to Mar-a-Lago, and they are meeting with Trump, and they're going to plead, talk, cajole, whatever, to try to make him understand how much this hurts them internationally, and how 2 or 3 years of tariffs means that America is no longer the tech leader in the world.
Yeah.
Because everybody will buy other people's stuff.
And I've seen some people talk about how places like India and Taiwan are not reciprocating on the Trump tariffs.
Right.
That all that is, and people are saying that's a capitulation in the trade war. No, it isn't. They're basically saying we don't want to raise prices on our own people, and so we're going to keep the tariffs where we have them at, and not engage in a trade war. They'll probably do a lot better than say Europe or Canada that are going to reciprocate on the reciprocal tax or tariffs. But yeah, and with the hands-off protests, I think we're going to see more protests in the coming weeks as long as these tariffs are in place, as long as Doge continues to do the dumb things.
Well, once we start to really see the impact, I mean, we're seeing the impact in the market, but we haven't seen the impact in prices yet. But we will very soon. I mean, car parts is going to be a very classic one. You sort of see a bump right now on prices for used automobiles because there's going to be a lot of scavenging. Now, again, I talk about the fact that this is the one thing that I don't know, but American ingenuity is so good at coping with crises like this. You think about what happened when Cuba was shut off from America for trade, but they had all these cars. The Cubans became genius engineers. And if you go to Havana, you'll see cars from the 50s and 60s that look delicious because they had to find a way to deal with that stuff. I don't want our economy to go the way of Cuba's, but I think that there are going to be some things that we're going to figure out ways to cope, how to do with it. Like, when at one point in time when there was a coffee shortage, it became very popular for. There's an old drink. I don't know if Joe will remember it, but it's called Toastum.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Toastum is literally burnt toast, and you stir it into water, and people drank that as a coffee substitute.
Yeah.
When there's a shortage on coffee.
I actually like burnt toast, so
I mean,
I might try that.
Well, you should definitely try it. And it's an old recipe, Dave. It was actually the British used it on sailing vessels to pretend like it was coffee. But we're going to have a lot of ingenuity in learning how to deal with these things, just like we did in COVID, right? 1 million people found 1 million different ways to deal with what was going on and to get by. And so we'll find a way to get by, but it's going to hurt in ways that we don't even understand yet.
Yeah, it's true.
I wonder about the impacts to, especially like the Amazons and the Walmarts and the global trade giants. Whether it's DHgate or any of those, what's the impact going to be on those companies?
I mean, one of the interesting things about it is that why did manufacturing jobs go overseas? Let's do this in a sort of a Socratic conversation. What do you guys think? Socrates. So great. Why did American manufacturing jobs go overseas?
became cheaper to manufacture overseas
because of labor. Labor is cheaper overseas. So if you could find a way to make labor cheaper in the United States, then you could bring those jobs back. But actually, you wouldn't bring the jobs back, you'd bring the production back. So automation could stand up.
Yes.
And take these jobs and give us production back in the United States. And so is this now going to incentivize? I always say incent, and incent means to make somebody angry. Incentivize to provide somebody with an incentive. Is this going to incentivize people to find ways to automate, to take the human element out of labor so that they can produce things in the United States and avoid tariffs?
You raise a great point. Think about just the ports that receive all the goods in this country. They have, it's known that they have been resisting a lot of automation that could streamline, make us more like, as efficient as Europe. This could be the kind of thing that pushes us over that edge, especially if there's going to start to be job losses. And you know it as well as we all know it. When these markets change, so does the labor force. Go back to the Industrial Revolution. That's a great example. So yeah, this is part of the contending with the pain. You raised some great points on that, Dan.
Yeah, and we don't know what the adaptation will look like. We just know that the adaptation will happen.
Yes.
And the question is, what is it going to mean, and how much? When things change along the way, there's always pain and suffering, and sometimes that's what happens. Change requires pain and suffering, and sometimes that's great. We can look at change that had to happen in the United States socially, right?
Or change that needs to happen but has been resisted, like I mentioned, port automation. The Jones Act, how about that? Can you imagine if all of a sudden they finally repeal that, and that greatly streamlines the movement of goods? That's going to pull down costs. That's going to pull down prices.
Yep. All these things are potential possibilities. We don't know exactly where they're going to go, but I do know that we're exploring them now. I think every big company is exploring them now. And what the long run is going to be, how much of this unforced damage and unforced errors is going to happen, is going to affect us, I don't know. But I do think that when the dust clears, there's going to be, like everything else, some good stuff that came out of it and some bad stuff that came out of it. The good of coping. Think about COVID, right? COVID brought rise to real delivery services, right? DoorDash and all these other places. They sort of existed a little bit, but also, I don't know what it's like where you guys live, but you can get alcohol delivered now.
Yeah.
And that's a big plus.
Here in PA, they'll ship. I remember all of a sudden, Governor Wolf, shut down the state stores. You couldn't get booze, but there was a local distillery where I was able to get bourbon. It was a stiff price, but I was able to get bourbon during COVID, and they would even ship it within the state.
Stiff price to get stiff.
Yes.
Nobody else uses the slang of getting stiff to mean getting drunk anymore, but I'm going to use it. So we're in for a long haul. I definitely agree that we have to complain about all the stupidity, and there's a lot of stupidity here. Well, that's what I got.
You raise really some great points, Dan, about how resourceful we are. It's true. And I'd also like to point out that when things get really bad, and they're going to get worse before they get better, I do believe. But when we come out of it, we are typically so much better because of these changes. And obviously, I think in a lot of ways, because of attitudes, we will have that to look forward to. We'll be able to look back at Trump and Trumpism as a historical footnote that failed, but at least have the comfort and pleasure of knowing it's long behind us.
Right.
All right. Before we hit the quiz, just reporting the Dow futures are still down, but they've gotten a little bit better. 1162 is the down. It's still another fisting of your 401ks.
Again, if you're into that, that's fine.
No king shaming here. S&P their futures are down 178. The NASDAQ is down 768. So definitely it's going to be a blue Monday on the stock market. Nikkei, which is actually open, it's Monday in Japan. It is down 2,300 points, almost 2,400 points on the day, 7.05%. So while the American markets may be coming off of the lows at the start of the futures, they're still looking low, and it's not looking great for the global economy. Also, next week, just secured my guest for next week is going to be Tony DeRazio. We're going to be talking about the Canadian elections as they are rounding into our view at. Great thing about Canadian elections is that they call the election and it's like 6 weeks. There's not a long time. Actually, it's less than, I think. The elections were called towards the end of February, and we're going to have towards the end of March, and we're going to see the election in April 28th. So we'll have Tony DeRazio to talk about Canadian election next week. So, all right, y'all ready for the El Quiz?
I'm ready.
Ready when you are.
All right. Let's see. Okay, the 5 Things Weekly News Quiz from April 4th, 2025. So this was on Friday. Stuff that's happened yesterday and today are not on the quiz, and probably stuff in the afternoon on Friday either. All right, a trade war, norovirus outbreak, a pair of elderly geckos. What do you remember from the week it was? So we see the old-ass geckos. Is that a band? Is that a boy band? Like a K-pop or something?
I'm guessing it was K-pop, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then Marine Le Pen. All right. Oh. Question number 1. French far-right leader Marine Le Pen was banned from running for political office for the next 5 years after being found guilty of which offense? Tampering with elections, tax evasion, mail fraud, or embezzlement?
I don't know, but I would guess tax evasion. Just because that's what everybody gets caught on, but I have no idea.
I'm going to guess embezzlement.
I believe it's embezzlement. Actually, let me bring up the chat so I can see people's answers. I think it was embezzlement. She embezzled a bunch of EU funds. So let's check. Yes.
Good job.
Le Pen was found guilty of embezzlement for using European Parliament money to pay staff members who were, in fact, working for her political party, the National Rally in France. Janice got it right as well. All right. Question number 2. At 64 and 60, Antoinette and Brucey Baby could be the world's oldest geckos. What is the secret to their longevity? Their island is free of predators. They eat a specific type of rare insect. They sleep for 18 hours a day, or they have a very active sex life.
I'm going with sex life.
I'm going to say that too because I don't think it would be newsworthy otherwise. I also like
Daryl has it right.
Yes, I like Daryl's answer. The other longevity to not dying.
Daryl.
But I agree that it's probably a very active sex life.
Very active sex life.
That'll keep you young.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you get once you understand that they're 64 years old, they're probably not in a natural habitat. So I don't know that
right. And it's interesting to question whether or not they're fertile at that age. I don't know.
Well, just saw, in fact, AJ posted a story tonight that a 94-year-old San Juan Galapagos tortoise gave birth, so becoming the world's oldest creature to give birth.
Well, it's worth mentioning.
It's like a third of their lifespan.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember what was the big 300-year-old one that died relatively recently. But,
it was not the sex life. It was a island free of predators.
Interesting.
Wow. Question number 3. Oscar-winning director Sam Mendes is making a new series of biopics about the Beatles. Which actor has been cast to play Ringo Starr? Is it Paul Mescal, Joseph Quinn, Harris Dickinson, or Barry Cohen?
I don't think that's pronounced Cohen. I don't know.
Cohen. Well, I know the EOG.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. All 4 of those are clearly made-up names.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Exactly.
I don't know any of those individuals.
Right. There's a pretty funny joke where Benedict Cumberbatch is told that he, when he was very young, he auditioned for I don't know which Madonna movie it was. Might have been Evita, and he kind of came in and she was running the show, and she's like, "Benedict Cumberbatch, is that your actual name?" And he said, "Yes, Madonna."
I mean,
touche.
Probably why he wasn't in that movie, I would guess.
Yeah, I have no idea who this is going to be.
Craig,
we're going to have to go with the audience.
Craig says Barry with a question mark, and then Daryl says Harry Dickman.
Which is not a character.
Which is not one of the choices.
Right.
Our audience has jokes.
Yeah.
Actually, our audience was funny tonight.
Which Clint Eastwood movie was he in?
I don't know, but I will say, if you're looking for a good laugh on Amazon Prime, check out Last One Laughing. It's essentially a show in which 10 comedians are put together in a room and they try to make each other laugh. And the last person laughing wins the show. And it's just amazing.
Okay. Timothy Chalamet is not a choice, Janice. I mean, Timothy Chalamet is pretty much in everything right now. I have enjoyed him in Dune, the Dune series, but
the winning joke on the show was I was walking through a cemetery and a man popped up from behind a grave. I said to him, "Morning." He said, No, I was just taking a shit."
There's like a Facebook reels of this Australian group called Yeah Mad.
Yeah.
They're hilarious. They're
the thing too where they face off against each other.
Yeah. They try to make each other laugh shot for shot. That's some good stuff.
Good. All right, so we have no idea here. I think we have Harry and Barry listed.
Harry and Barry. Let's do Barry because he's got a weird name.
Yeah, I agree. You can't go wrong with
Barry. Wow. We'll play Ringo Starr in the Beatles, a 4-film cinematic event. Do we really need 4 films?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I did watch the Paul Jackson Let It Be thing, and that was pretty interesting.
Oh, Lord. Braymore and Bobby. Question number 4. Why did Democratic attorneys general and governors in 23 states and Washington, D.C. file a lawsuit against the Department of Health and Human Services and the HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this week to reverse the cancellation of research grants to universities, to block RFK's ban on chicken nuggets in public schools, which I'm for, and then to stop the rollback of $12 billion in public health funding, or to remove anti-vaccine posts from the HHS website. I think it's the cancellation of research grants. There's actually just a ruling that blocks basically compels the administration to.
I think so because I think the argument is that it was a contract.
Well, Congress has approved the funding.
Right.
No. To stop the rollback of $12 billion in public health funding. That's reasonable.
Same.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I was looking up something the other day about vaccines, and this is like Saturday, and the quote in Google, and I went to the page on CDC, it was gone. Page does not exist.
Interesting.
All right, question number 5. Although President Trump placed a 10% tariff on imports from Heard and the McDonald Islands, the U.S. will never receive any money. Why? The islands refuse to export products to the United States. The islands' products are already banned in the United States. The islands are not inhabited by people, or the islands don't exist. I mean, there were comedians talking about how Wakanda was also hit by tariffs.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Fredonia is my favorite.
Stankonia. It was the fact that it's not inhabited by people. It's penguins that live there. Those fentanyl-pushing penguins deserve that 10% tariff until they clean up their fucking act.
Yep.
Oh, man.
All right, question number 6. Nintendo this week revealed details about which new product. Nintendo Switch 2, an electric Mario Kart go-kart for kids. That would be awesome. Nintendo smartphone or Nintendo AI Power Pets.
I know this one. It's the Switch 2.
That's the only one that makes sense. I mean, although the go-kart would be awesome.
Go-kart would be awesome. It's like shells and banana peels come out the back. And
yeah, exactly.
But have you ever played a Switch?
I have not.
Very briefly, my nephews have them. It really is an interesting idea that it's such a small system you carry it around. You can play it anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's funny, too, that like they came out with the Switch after everybody thought Nintendo was out of the console game.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Question number 7. More than 240 people fell ill recently due to norovirus outbreak on which luxury cruise ship? The Pacific Princess, Queen Mary 2, Celebrity Edge, or Norwegian Spirit? I have not heard this story.
I'm going to say Princess.
I think it's the Norwegian Spirit, but let's wait for the audience. But in the meantime, I'm going to sing. Oh, thank you, Voluntary Frailty, for your comment. Love,
on Twitch.
Exciting and new.
You're twitching.
Come aboard. We're expecting you.
The shit boat.
Soon you'll be running around with the runs.
I just remember that one ship that was like a Carnival Cruise Lines that got blasted with norovirus, and then the engine shut down, and they were just stuck on that ship, and they couldn't get the sewage off. Like that was a power issue. They couldn't get the sewage off, so eventually they just had to hang ass over the side or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. We went on a cruise for our honeymoon, for the first half of our honeymoon. I don't think I would do it again.
I love cruises.
Yeah, the risk seems so high to me.
I actually went through a tropical storm. The last time we went on a cruise was out to Bermuda, and we went through. It was a hurricane when it hit Bermuda. As it was going past, it was a tropical storm. I was very, I was not feeling fantastic. I didn't throw up, but I definitely got some motion sickness.
Did you guys have a cabin with a window?
No, but we went to eat at so I called it the Face Jammer, the Windjammer restaurant at the front of the ship. So we watched as the ship goes up and then slams down into the water.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And then we saw like a big stack of bacon just take a header and just fall all over the place. It was kind of sad. But yeah, it was interesting. We were lucky though, because the ship that came into port right after we did was a Norwegian cruise line, and nobody in the audience is helping us out on this one. So I think we're
Yeah.
just going
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to flip a coin, David, to decide between.
But
Pacific
the Norwegian cruise line ship, their perfumery crashed, like all the
Wow, so
bottles of
definitely
the
sunk. Yeah, it's done.
Wow.
yeah.
I
At
mean,
least one's in the liquor store. You
well, I
know,
was gonna say you can solve them both the same way. They have such high alcohol content.
you just set it on
Light
fire.
them up. Exactly.
They actually had to stay, I think, an extra day in port because of the risks. But
Interesting. All right. I think it's Norwegian Spirit, but it could be Pacific Princess.
let's do more. I just used Norwegian in the story.
All
No,
right.
it was not. It was the Queen,
Queen
Mary
Mary.
2.
Wow.
Wow. Didn't know.
I didn't even know it was still sailing.
Queen Mary 2, Electric Boogaloo. All right, question number 8. Paleontologists unearthed a fossil of which type of newly identified species in Australia? That may be up to 16 million years old. Bird, insect, fish, or snake?
16 million? I don't know. My guess would be insect,
Yeah,
but I have no idea.
that insect probably could kill you too.
Yes, everything in
Knowing it's
Australia.
Australia.
So dangerous.
All right, we'll take a chance here. I mean, we're blowing this one this week.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fish.
There's a great. Oh, Gerald.
They were touring back then.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a funny drunk video of Chris Hemsworth at home in Australia, and there's just this incredibly dangerous snake in his house, and he has to go and catch it because it's Australia.
Yeah, I mean, there's even the stuff that can kill you, like the huntsman spider.
Yeah.
Like, I hate spiders to begin with, but when you have a spider that's like that long with the legs and they will,
there's the
be
funnel
behind things, and you open your car door and they scurry out, I'm nuking the entire country.
Ken is right that fish don't exist.
Fish don't
there
exist.
is no
Birds are not real.
Well, it's not that birds are not real, but the word fish doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's a malaria, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what is the world's top infectious killer? Malaria, measles, Ebola, or tuberculosis? It's definitely not Ebola. Ebola is so deadly, it essentially outkicks the coverage. It kills people in such a rapid succession that it can't leap beyond a certain radius. Now, you could have it transferred through mosquitoes or something like that. That would definitely make it worse. But
well, it's interesting. I recall a headline in the Onion. It said malaria. Excuse me, malaria. Still 50 white deaths away from a cure. But it is, it's it's poverty.
Yeah.
And so as a result, there's not a lot of impetus to fix it.
Oh no, it's tuberculosis. Wow.
That's amazing.
We are getting pounded in this one.
Yeah, this is
I think this is by far our worst quiz so far.
I think it's it's because we've been talking about fisting so much.
This is true.
This one I know. Batman.
Yes. Actor Val Kilmer died this week at the age of 65. Which superhero did he once play? You could also say that Doc Kilmer or that Doc Holliday was a superhero, but
Nick Rivers, right? I mean, Nick Rivers is definitely a superhero.
Which
which
movie was that?
Top Secret. Yeah.
Real Genius was one of my favorite movies of all time.
Boy Genius is pretty good. Top Secret is amazing because Val Kilmer was the triple threat. The choreography for some of his dancing in that was just insane. I do agree with Janice's point that we could control plus that and make it larger.
Yeah. It's hard keeping everything on the screen though.
Yeah, Dr. Bolton, I see that point. I mean, I did love Top Gun, and I loved what they did with him in Maverick. I thought that was amazing. I didn't see The Doors because I'd read
Oh, The
the
Doors
book.
was amazing.
Yeah,
Great.
I heard it was amazing. I'd read the book and I sort of didn't want to step on that. But for people who love the movie or haven't seen it, the book "No One Here Gets Out Alive" is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna miss Val Kilmer.
I am too. I mean, he hadn't done a whole lot of acting in the last few years. Been dealing with
With
lots
throat
of health
cancer,
issues,
the
throat
movie Val
cancer.
I was watching, he had a very short arc on Entourage
Yeah,
as the marijuana Sherpa. Um,
yeah,
and it's too bad. But it goes to the point that he's only 65 years old.
yeah.
Sometimes all the money in the world can't fix some things. So
Yeah,
make hay while the sun shines.
Absolutely.
exactly. Absolutely. All right. So, how are we feeling about 8 o'clock starts? Is that good?
Much better. I like this
It's
better.
better for me. My
Yeah,
my workday starts at 6 o'clock in the morning now.
yeah.
So
My work day on Mondays will be at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got to get up and heading towards Frederick. So,
no, that part sucks.
once we start going full time in office, that's if I'm still working, that's how that will go. So, but yeah, I'm good with the earlier show.
Well, and I want to give special thanks out to all of our fans, guys. The fact that you came and watched at this time, the new time, everybody's here. Chuck and Janice and Daryl and
AJ was here. Hopefully, we get AJ
AJ,
back on the show.
Ken.
She's about to get her internet
Yep,
stuff sorted out, so we can get AJ back on the show.
that would be
So,
awesome.
Good,
Ken
good.
and Craig, uh,
yeah,
Tess. It really was nice to have all you guys here. It's a big deal, and I think you know a lot of the quality of the show is based on the fact that we have really a good quality audience.
oh
So
yeah, you guys
thanks,
have
guys. Right,
Heidi
thank
as
you.
well.
I forgot to mention Heidi and Elizabeth, and
Yep.
I think not less of me, my omniscience, that I didn't scroll through the list of everybody who's here. Just doing it off the top of my head. But guys, click, and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Those things really make a difference. The more of you who like this video, the more people will get suggested the next week's video in their list. So help us out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I promise
Absolutely.
that you guys will always be remembered as our famous first audience.
The OGs. You're the
And we'll
OG.
always respond to your questions. Yeah.
Yes.
Tom was here too. Thank you, Janice. Janice, I'm appointing you official
attendance taker.
Yes. I was trying to think of
right.
a less sexist word than secretary.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back next week at 8 o'clock to talk about the Canadian elections with Tony DeRazio. So look forward to seeing everybody then, and have a great night, and good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, all. We'll see you next week.